You're watching PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hey everybody, welcome to PIX on Politics Daily. I'm Dan Mannarino. It is Thursday, February 12th, and hopefully everybody's having a great day. Let's talk about what happened yesterday in Albany, right? It was the big day for mayors around New York State, including Mayor Zohran Mamdani, to head up to Albany, known as Tin Cup Day, right? Where mayors from around the area go up to Albany and they talk to legislators up there about why their city needs money, right? And we had the mayor on our air, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, right? How he had come on and signed this executive order right here live on PIX 11 to talk about how each agency in New York City should hire a chief saving officer to look for savings and efficiencies, because he was saying there was this $12 billion budget gap. But then we spoke to a few people, Stephen Fulop, Partnership for Greater New York, and then a few other folks who were former city council members who were questioning that $12 billion number and whether or not it was realistic. Even the governor herself was like, well, we got to look under the car hood and kind of see what it is. And then yesterday in Albany, the mayor was able to report to everybody that that number actually wasn't $12 billion, that it was $7 billion deficit, which was much more in line with what some of the folks were saying, like the Citizen Budget Commission as well, when they were here on this show talking about it. But they still need money. I mean, that's still a pretty big deficit. So that is the situation of kind of what played out yesterday. And I want to talk to somebody who is in the room where it happened, right? And somebody who is also new to this New York State Assembly and took over for the same seat that Zohran Mamdani left when he ran for mayor. So that is now the Assembly member, Diana Moreno. So great to see you, Diana. Thanks for being here. And let me talk to you first and foremost about kind of the energy behind your campaign. You were relatively new. I mean, you were somebody who kind of joined the Mamdani campaign, right, to like launch for the launch video, and then decided to run for his seat, came to New York City in 2019, and here you are now in the Assembly. I mean, a meteoric rise. Talk about the moment for you.
Yeah, we are so proud of the campaign that we ran, which we really saw as a continuation of the historic mayoral campaign of Zohran Mamdani. I have been a supporter of Zohran since 2020, since he ran for assembly when I was living in Astoria, and I helped him as a volunteer during the pandemic. It was quite the interesting campaign because we had to pivot to, writing postcards and delivering food for folks who couldn't leave their homes. I mean, and then now, his mayoral campaign, and then to see him yesterday in Albany testifying as the mayor of New York, quite the change. And of course, for me too, as someone who was a volunteer and resident and now the assembly member who represents Astoria, it's a proud moment.
All right, sitting on the other side.
Yes.
And in doing some research about you, I know you are very much aligned with a lot of what the mayor is looking to do, right? And so he went to Albany yesterday saying, we give a lot to New York State, we don't get a lot back. He wants more money to kind of pay for some of the things that he campaigned on. Right. What did you make of that $12 billion number? Some of the people raised their eyebrows at it, saying that he was painting this dire situation because he was trying to put pressure on Albany to say raise taxes, for example. And then just a few weeks later said, well, actually, it's $5 billion less.
Well, I mean, I think that considering that I lived through the Adams administration, I am not surprised that there is a huge deficit due to the mismanagement and corruption of the former administration. We are living with the consequences of a badly managed city for years. And so I wasn't surprised to see a big number. And I'm glad that it's less than $12 billion now, because I do know that the mayor is building an extraordinary team. I'm proud of the team that he's building. And I do think that the focus is on finding savings and efficiency, which government should be doing. And so I'm glad that the number is lower, but it's still a huge deficit, $7 billion that we need in our city to be able to run at a baseline. And we can't forget that we also have a federal government that is taking billions away from New York. So what we need to do, and I align with the mayor on this, is that we need to find new sources of revenue, which for me should be taxing the wealthiest New Yorkers and corporations to pay their fair share.
So I'll get to that in just a second. But on that $12 billion versus the $7 billion, right? And just the short time frame between the two, did it surprise you that in just a few weeks, I mean, it was 3 weeks, that the number drastically changed? And some people were saying, well, it was a scare tactic to begin with.
I don't know. I mean, I trust that the mayor was giving the numbers that he knew at the time, and the fact that they've changed. I think that if they found whatever numbers under the hood. I think the focus really shouldn't be on like the big change. It should be on how do we make sure that we have the sufficient revenue to ensure that the city runs so that we can serve our constituents. That's our job as elected officials, is to ensure that the city continues to run efficiently and to deliver on the promises that him and I both ran on, which is to tackle the affordability crisis that so many New Yorkers are living with.
And so you're talking about taxing the wealthy, which is something the mayor has often said to me in many interviews. And every time I come back to him, I said, well, the governor says she's not going to do it. Because every time I talk to her, she says no. So as a member of the assembly now, and it's kind of like tasking your cohorts in Albany to vote for it, are you confident that you can get it done and that the governor would actually move the needle a bit and kind of, she'd have to sign it. So would she do it?
Yeah. Well, what we need to do is ensure that Governor Hochul understands that New Yorkers are ready to push for a different kind of politics where the billionaire class pays their fair share. We have many of them in New York, and they're not the ones that are leaving our great city. They're not the ones that are leaving our state. It's working class people and working class families that are leaving because of the cost of childcare, because of the cost of rent. And so it is past time that we tax the wealthy. And frankly, again, thinking of the current context of a federal government that is punishing states like New York, we need the governor of New York to step up, and we need to do so through organizing. So we need our constituents to come up to Albany on February 25th. It's a big day of action in which we are going to call on my colleagues and the governor to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, you've talked to some of your colleagues, right, in some of the backdoor conversations, backroom conversations. What are they saying?
Yeah, so our colleagues are very much ready. They understand that their constituents are really pushing for the governor and for New York State to do our jobs, which is to ensure that we have enough revenue to tackle the cost of healthcare. We have New Yorkers that are seeing their healthcare costs rise. We have New Yorkers that are having trouble with their utility bills, and they're asking us to step up. I was elected with a mandate to push, to be bold, and to push the governor and to push our colleagues to tax the wealthy and to ensure that people have a place to live, they have health care, they have their child care costs covered. It is the basics of being able to live in our great city, the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world.
But the governor is saying, well, look, I was able to I need time. She said, I believe it was in one of her recent press conferences, we're making universal child care happen. We're giving the mayor the money to make the universal child care happen, to help with a big part of what his agenda was, to make it all free and affordable for so many families. So if she doesn't raise taxes, do you believe you can kind of get the other parts done, fast and free buses, so on and so forth? Or do you really just want to see the taxes raised?
Well, we are just so glad that Governor Hochul has signaled that support and has invested in expanding universal childcare for 2K and 3K in the city. And I want to make sure that we have true universal childcare in every corner of New York. So for that, we also have to pass a universal childcare bill that's carried by my colleague in the Senate, Jabari Brisport, and my colleague in the Assembly, Andrew Hevesy. And that is going to truly expand childcare to be universal for all New York's families. And we have to, again, do the same push for the real deal, right? While I am so excited that she signaled the support, and this is the beginning of universal childcare, we need to really make it truly universal. And same with, again, the revenue that we need to see in the state. We need to tax the wealthy in order to really deliver on the promises that myself and Mayor Mamdani ran on, which is to tackle the affordability crisis in the state.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 3.5-year-old. Childcare ain't cheap.
18-month-old at home,
there
and
you go.
My gosh, double rent every month.
Exactly.
It's wild.
Yeah, I hear you. I want to talk about some of the big ticket items that you ran into, affordability crisis being one of them as well.
Absolutely.
But also the fight against immigration and ICE raids that we're kind of seeing play out, and how you see that kind of playing out in New York as well.
Yeah. Our immigrant neighbors are living in deep fear. It really is a crisis, a human rights crisis, a crisis of democracy, because again, we see an agency that is not interested in upholding the law, that is breaking New York law. We see an agency that is kidnapping families, separating families. I mean, it really hurts to even talk about, let alone the people who are living through family separation, who are living through the deportation of a loved one. And this is something that, again, I feel very strongly that we must be bold in New York, show the path forward to how all states should respond to ICE, which is by ending the collaboration between law enforcement, who is tasked with enforcing the laws of our state, and an agency that is absolutely lawless and that doesn't
Doesn't
care
that
about
already
the human
exist
rights.
in New York? Sanctuary
So
laws?
sanctuary laws do exist in the city of New York.
Yeah, but not the okay.
But we have to expand that to the rest of the state because again, our upstate neighbors are dealing with being maybe stopped at a traffic stop, and then they end up in immigration detention away from their loved ones, and that is absolute insanity for a community that contributes so much to our state. And again, this is not the New York that we want to see. We want to see a New York where immigrant New Yorkers are protected and they can live in dignity.
Is it harder to do that, I guess, outside of New York City with the sanctuary laws, right? I mean, you look just what's playing out in Westchester and Mike Lawler saying, heck no, we're not doing it here. And then you go even further north where it's a little more red. Is it individualized by the area and county, or is there a universal law that can kind of be passed across the state?
So that's why the first bill that I signed on to when I got to Albany just a week ago was New York for All.
Yeah.
And that would make it throughout the state. It would end collaboration between law enforcement and ICE. It would end also the sharing of data between law enforcement agencies and ICE, because we are seeing the nefarious use of the data from immigrant communities, for immigrant individuals, between law enforcement and ICE, that is being used again to separate families, to abuse the human rights of our New Yorkers. And we know that our colleagues upstate are also seeing the impact that this has, again, not just on an immigrant community, but on the community at large. When there's a little kid missing from a classroom because they were separated from their family because now they're in detention, that impacts the teachers, the students. I mean, it really is a community that grieves from a broken piece of their community.
Yeah. Overall, should ICE exist?
I am a strong proponent of abolishing ICE as an agency, which has not been an agency for very long. It came about, through after the Patriot Act, and again, we have so many agencies that precede it, and we had a United States before it, and we absolutely can have a United States after it. So yes,
I want to talk to you about just overall the party as a whole, right? I mean, your race was a snapshot, kind of what's happening in certain areas where you're a Democratic Socialist, and members of the Democratic Socialist Party are winning and winning big. And so what does that say to kind of the Democratic establishment overall?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And we just saw it in New Jersey as well with Ana Lilia winning a special election. And it just signals that people are hungry for a different kinds of politics where we actually center the dignity of working people ahead of the corporate interest or the interest of a small minority of wealthy individuals. And that is exactly the kind of future that we need if we're going to have a democracy at all. We're seeing a administration that doesn't seem very interested in holding free and fair elections. I mean, this is truly an existential crisis for our democracy, and Democratic Socialists are showing a path forward for true democracy where people, where workers, where individuals have the right to, again, live with dignity, have the right to join a union, have the right to vote in fair and free elections. That is the kind of future that we're showing that people want.
I mean, you brought up NJ11 and Analia. She won over a powerhouse Democrat who was the establishment. But what is it, I guess, when you kind of look at the party as a whole, is there a shift or a messaging issue between moderate, old school Democrats and the new wave?
Yes. There is not just a messaging issue, but again, it's the values under the message. Because it doesn't matter if you message things right. If you don't actually live out those values, then those are empty promises, right? And what we are saying is that we have to message and we have to live those values of fighting for working people, for everyday people, so that they have the basics that they need to live and so that they can thrive, especially in a city like New York City, which is an extraordinarily wealthy city where people are struggling to make rent every month.
So let me ask you then, because members of people I talk to are like, okay, do Democratic Socialists support other Democrats then, or they only support DSA members? Like for example, Kathy Hochul, would you support her?
So I absolutely would support the governor in the initiatives where she has shown alignment. She has shown a support for universal childcare, but we have to push her when it comes to taxing the wealthy, because we cannot again, go towards a path of really centering the dignity of working people if we don't have the revenue that we need in the state to ensure that New Yorkers have what they need. And right now we are looking at a federal government that is stealing billions in our public tax dollars to put it in the pockets of billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And we need the governor to step up and to show that New York is different, that New York will put the needs of working people first.
Yeah. Should she get the nomination in a second term? I mean, she has the nomination. Should she get a second term?
I am ready to fight for what my constituents sent me to Albany to do. And I hope to support the governor if she supports our agenda.
Okay. That sounds like a political answer.
Well, you know,
I know.
Now I'm a politician.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and let me ask you about that, right? I'm going to end on that conversation, right? Because you are brand new into the world of politics. I mean, yes, you supported and worked with Zohran Mamdani in the past, but I mean, as actually running a campaign, everything else, how has the adjustment and transition kind of been for you?
Well, you know, the hardest thing is that I have a sweet toddler at home that I miss very much when I go to Albany. But I'm so excited to be able to represent, you know, a working class immigrant mom, right? Like we have so many working parents that maybe don't see themselves in the world of politics. And here I am as a working mom, as an immigrant from Ecuador, representing my community, representing our constituents, working class constituents that are struggling also with childcare.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited, and I feel a deep responsibility to show that people like myself belong in this world and belong in the fight to ensure that, you know, we have what we deserve, that we have what our children deserve.
I don't mean to go back to the question about Hochul for a second, but it just dawned on me that the mayor, Zohran Mamdani, did endorse her. And you're kind of stopping short of it. So that's a messaging issue in itself within the DSA.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that Zohran has worked with Governor Hochul to, you know, deliver already a huge win, which was the initial investment in the expansion of universal childcare. And I think that's great. And again, at the state level, I believe that we need to see more. I know that my comrades in DSA also believe that we need to see more from the governor. And so I want to demand more of the governor. And I know that our constituents want the same.
Got it. I appreciate you coming on. It was a great conversation. I hope we have many more, okay?
I appreciate
Good stuff.
that.
All right, everybody. So don't forget, tomorrow on PIX on Politics at 6:30 p.m. on the main show, we're going to be sitting down with Stanley Richards, the new Department of Corrections Commissioner. Great conversation. We spoke earlier in the week. He is the first formerly incarcerated person to now lead the Department of Corrections and his plans for what he wants to see happen on Rikers Island. And we're also talking to Crystal Hudson, city council member who held the hearing this week. She was the chair on the hearing against cold weather deaths and so on and so forth. We're going to talk to her about what they learned from that hearing all tomorrow on PIX on Politics. So we'll see you then. Have a great day.